Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. The country that we know as Iraq was only founded in 1958, but the city that we know as Baghdad was established over 1200 years ago by the Abbasids. It was considered to be the greatest city in the world during the medieval period. Before we can talk about why Baghdad was the greatest city in the world, we need some historical context. The Umayyads were the rulers of the Muslim world at this time. The Abbasid revolution started in 747 in Khorasan, which is modern Afghanistan, and swept through the Muslim world, which led to a number of victories, ending in the decisive victory at the Battle of Zab in 750, successfully overthrowing the Umayyad Caliphate. In the decade that followed, the Abbasids ruled from Kufa, which is a city south of Baghdad. In the year 762, the second Abbasid caliph, Mansur, decided to establish a new capital for his empire. It is said that Mansur himself travelled up the Tigris river to find the location of his new capital. The new capital is located 22 miles north of the previous Persian capital, Ctesiphon. The construction of the city was pushed rapidly, with over 100,000 workers from the different parts of the Muslim Empire helping to build this new city. Mansur designed the city himself. He chose to build a circular city. Khatib al-Baghdadi, a Muslim scholar who lived during the 11th century in Baghdad, mentioned there were 3 walls constructed, 2 outer walls and 1 inner wall. He mentions the outer wall reached a height of 80 feet. The city was 12 miles in diameter, and at the center was the famous Golden Gate Palace, which is the residence of the caliph and his family. Also at the center of the city was the Grand Mosque. Construction of the city commenced on 30th July 762. In only 4 years the city was completed in 766. Mansur named this city Madinat al-Salam, the city of peace. Immigrants of all kinds, Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, from faraway lands of India and Spain settled in this new city. It did not take long before the city was spread outside the city walls. The city reached its true heights during the reign of Harun al-Rashid and his son al-Maymun. The city was filled with beautiful parks, gardens and villas. All houses were provided fresh water through the use of aqueducts. Paved streets, gardens and parks were regularly swept and watered. No rubbish was allowed to remain within the city walls. At night, the city was lit up by lamps. It had numerous colleges of learning, hospitals, infirmaries for male and female. It had the largest library in the world, called Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. At its height, it had a population of 1.5 to 2 million people, making it the most populated city in the world at that time. In comparison with London and Paris, which at that time were just small, chaotic towns, 1/5 of the population lived and died on the street. There was no paving, and for drainage, there was a ditch in the middle of the road, and all the rubbish would go in there. Between the year 836 and 892, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate was transferred to Samarra due to the problems with the Caliph's Turkish troops in Baghdad. Samarra is 75 miles north of Baghdad. The city that Mansur built continued to flourish as a center of learning and commerce. However, by 1258, the Abbasid caliphs were mere figureheads. They held no significant power. The Mongols devastated the Muslim world and destroyed many important centers of learning all over Persia and Central Asia. In 1258, the Mongols besieged Baghdad, and 12 days later, al-Mustasim, the last Abbasid caliph, surrendered. It is reported that the Mongols slaughtered 800,000 people in Baghdad. Grand buildings such as the House of Wisdom Library was burned to the ground, and the books were thrown into the river. This began the city's decline, and it never reached the height that it once had. If you want to learn more, I would recommend the book When Baghdad Ruled the Muslim World. He goes into a lot more depth than I have. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments below.